31. Oh,
sorry about that. You're good to go now.
okay, so I will call the meeting to order. It is 1:31. And hi, everyone. Great to see everybody. And as well, thank you for the bag. It was a nice surprise as well when I got home and found it on my bench. So thank you, Kathy and Sarah and everyone else that was involved in that. Okay, we'll start off with declaration of interest. Does anyone have any interest to declare? No? Okay. So we are actually moving an item to discuss first. It's under reports, item number 4 under reports for Grey County. And it is the progress on the website update for, it's a verbal update with Rob Hatton and Brad Fritz. And they've asked if we can move that up to the first item on the agenda because staff have to leave quickly for another meeting. So I will hand it over to you, Rob.
Thank
or
you very
Brad.
much. Yeah, I'll be taking the lead on this one. Thank you very much, Chair Schultz and committee members for making the adjustment. I had to unexpectedly and quickly go pick up my daughter from childcare a little while ago. She's feeling unwell and I don't know how much time I have with her being asleep, but I'm going to have to dart out of here. So the reason that I wanted to be on the agenda today is to give this committee an update on the progress that we've made so far on the redevelopment of our corporate website, grey.ca. As you will remember, Brad and I were here a little while ago this year, and we did give you a glimpse of what the design would look like on the site. So this was prior to any of the pages being built or any of the programming happening in the background. I'd like to just show you a quick update on how that is progressing today, just some kind of before and after comparisons so you can see that, and so that we could get any feedback that you may have. I would like to note, though, right away that we are still very much in the developing stage of this. And I probably would have, under ideal circumstances, liked to wait another month longer or so, but I know we are getting to the end of the term and the end of this committee term. So I thought it was pretty important to bring it forward now while I had the opportunity. And I'm hopeful that we can continue to get some feedback from you through correspondence and other means after the fact. So I will just share over to my screen here right now. Oh, maybe not. Are you seeing grey.ca or YouTube?
Through the chair, Rob, we're seeing the old grey.ca or the
Perfect.
current grey.ca.
Okay, great. So this is just showing you kind of where we are right now on our current site. And as you can see, it's got, it's been functional for us. The look has become a little bit outdated. And we have our content segmented out into various service areas that are broken down how we internally see services in the county. And one of the major things that we're changing with the redevelopment of the site isn't just look and feel, but we are trying to reorganize our content in a way that makes more sense for the public to navigate through our site. So from what we have here, we've developed a fresh homepage. And as you will see right at the top, we have our search engine functionality very, very high up on the page. In some testing and surveying that we have done early on, we found that that's the way that many people like to navigate websites now. It doesn't mean that you can't still use the old means of navigating pages through the menus, but this is just certainly trying to keep up with how people are searching these days. We're making sure that we're making improvements to various things like our heading structures to ensure that we're consistent for keyboard navigation on our sites. That makes it easy for someone to navigate with the keyboard if that's the way that they need to tab around the site. So I will just scroll to give you a little bit of a look on the homepage. As you can see, although this is correct, winter services is our most popular page. It's not our intent that this will be every single box here. This was just kind of populating content for our own testing purposes. What I would like to draw your attention to is the use of colors and contrasts that we're trying to use here, as well as our use of icons to make it easier for people to understand what content they are going to be looking at. And as you will be able to see, the way that it is structured is that when a mouse cursor mouses over a section, it does highlight it. I think that this draws better attention and creates, it keeps the contrast there. And the point here is to just, again, try to draw attention to it, but we don't want it to be overly distracting. So although we do have this functionality on our homepage, it's not something that we're going to use tremendously throughout. Just as you scroll down, you can see that we can use the use of larger images to convey our messaging, as well as light use of color to highlight callout boxes for important information on our pages. And we're using a lot of column structures on our desktop view of our site as well, just to structurally try to make things clearer and easier to navigate. When you go into a mobile view of any of this content, it's all going to structure itself into, depending on the size of the device, but it'll likely go into a single column format, which will create more scrolling for the user. But testing and some research has shown that that's actually something that isn't a turnoff for users. They are totally willing to scroll their phones because we're all used to doing that time and time again on our devices. Now, just to show you one of our basic type pages. So this would be about as basic of a page as we have on our current gray.ca. Not super appealing, but it does work. You can see that we use a lot of content in these accordions on the pages. An accordion is basically a heading that you click and acts as a drop down. It's supposed to try to limit the space on the page. You can find a similar remake of the page. We've really simplified it here. We're still making use of the accordions, but it's more obvious what these accordions are now because of the little icons on them. And they're certainly more easy to read compared to the previous site. There's more spacing around the wording. We are maintaining at least the minimum 12 font over on the site, sometimes larger than that. But of course, people can use their machines to zoom in and out as they needed. And you'll see that sorry if I give anybody motion sickness, that was pretty quick. As you scale, the page scales with you. So it should always fit. As long as we're doing our jobs properly, it should fit to your view properly. Show you one of our more complex pages. This is for the Grey Transit route, which is Grey County's transit service. This is one of our larger pages. And as you can see, we're using similar call out boxes to put slight color accents around some of the boxes to really highlight the content. Realizing that's not going to work for all users, we are trying to have the most essential information higher up on the pages so it's easier to get to. One thing that we may incorporate onto this page that I'll show you on another one is a table of contents, which will be at the very top of the page and will provide links to all of those appropriate headings so that someone can jump to the page rather than having to go through all of the content if they were using something like a screen reader to go through. I like this page because it's a good display of our table structure as well. It should be fairly crisp and easy to use for individuals. We do have some spacing issues we got to clean up on the pages, but we will make sure that we have that ready to go before launch. We have an HTML friendly interactive map that also has our timetables on it. This is one point that I would definitely like some feedback from the committee as far as usability for those that may use a screen reader or something. I can send the URL out after the fact because I know that we do want to make sure that it is going to work for everybody. It is a map, but as you navigate through this embedded feature, it does get you to the various stop information and route times. Further down the page, again, just more information blocks and accordions. Once again, we're really trying to use icons as much as possible to support people in seeing the different content. That gives you an idea there. Now I'll show you one more page just to give you a bit of an idea. So this would be our long-term care page. Should be showing it the other way around. So this is currently our long-term care page. So you can see, I find this page is very condensed. Like there seems to be a lot of information packed right in there. And it's a little bit harder to follow. On the new design, we've kind of broken things around a little bit, making it more clear. This is an example of a table of contents where you can jump to various sections on the page, like our statement of commitment on this page. The stretch graphic. And I did just want to show you as well, the way that we're showing resources. These will be easier to access as well for anyone using keyboard navigation because they're in the primary section of content on the page. Right now, we have everything jammed over onto the side in this sidebar, which was difficult to, it was very easy to overlook for users for sure. And anyone trying to navigate with a keyboard, this would be the very last thing you would get to, and you'd have to go through quite a lot of content before you would get there. So I think that is going to perform a lot better and make it easier for people to find the supporting documents they need on their various pages. So that is it on just basically our progress report on how we're doing. We have probably 200 pages that we're building like this. So it is a very time consuming process, and one that I will admit, I did underestimate how long it's going to take. But I am happy with how we're going, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to soft launch this to the public at some point in November, definitely before the calendar year end. And during that period, I'm sure we'll get a bunch more feedback, and hopefully we'll be able to implement more changes. But I'm pretty sure that with Brad and my team in communications working on this, that we'll have it in good shape to go to the public. And one thing that I would update you on that I don't think that I did the last time that we spoke was a new tool that we've made an investment in, and it's called Municipal. And Municipal is a web accessibility platform that helps organizations ensure that their web pages are of high quality and are meeting accessibility needs. It is based out of the United States, where they actually are typically further ahead on accessibility than we have been in Canada in the past. And I found this tool to be incredibly helpful in just helping us bring our current site a little more up to date. But it's going to be very, very valuable as an ongoing tool moving forward, because the way it works is it will do regular scans of our website to scan for accessibility issues, and it will bring those to our attention. And more than that, it actually tracks averages for accessibility in our pages so that we can be keeping progress on how we're doing. We know that 100% accessibility is very hard to define and certainly very, very hard to reach. And it's particularly difficult in government organizations where we have to host so many documents and so much information that it's hard to get there. So this is going to make it easier for us to achieve that goal, so that when Kathy is submitting our compliance reports, especially, we can show that we are making progress here. And then just to quickly show you, this is just the dashboard showing where we're making, just how we're doing for accessibility and progress that's been made since our last scans and things. You're seeing here an industry average. So we are definitely behind, and it has tracked our industry as government. So that is certainly something that we're going to need to improve. But some of these statistics, they're showing as out of compliance for the fact that we haven't done the visual checks on all of these pages. And these are things that if I were to do this visual check right now, so it's checking that the link text is meaningful. This is actually applying to 202 pages on our site, which means that it's probably something in one of our menus. So to manually check that and approve that and show that it is actually accurate would remove those 202 errors and would jump us up a half a compliance point right there. So that's just how that works. So these are all manual checks. I'll just scan to see. Actually, maybe I'll go to the AA's first. So here is a bug. So this is one that we should probably take a look at. Which one is it? I thought I saw a heading one earlier. There we go. So you can, trying to find one that applies to a specific page. There we go. One page. So this tool is great because if somebody on my team is trying to fix it, it actually explains what the accessibility issue is so that you can solve it. If you're not sure where it is, you can actually inspect right in your page. So this will bring the page up in the browser. And I can see, okay, where is it? And it can highlight, well, the element isn't visible. That tells me that it's in one of my accordions. Hey, that one looks okay. And okay, yeah, that looks like that's probably a problem there. So having these crawling aspects on our site, it just gives us the tools that we need to stay on top of what we need to stay. I think one of the areas that we struggle the most is our agenda management and some of the content that goes in our PDFs that go on there. So certainly with Gray.ca, we're really hoping to move away from PDFs in time entirely. That seems like a bit of a pipe dream, but we will get there as best as we can. So I certainly am open to any feedback that you may have. I'm hopeful that we can send you before the end of your term a link to our beta site so that you can do some testing for us. If I could ask you to do that, as well as we'll get some public testing too. And if you have any questions right now, I would be very happy to answer those.
Does anyone have any questions?
Maybe off topic, but if I'm allowed.
Yes, absolutely, Claudia.
When it came to public transportation, what I saw on the webpage was that children and elderly get a cheaper price traveling with buses. Why not people with disability? Like seniors who are on a pension get more money than people on disability. Is there anything we can do about that?
I can certainly raise that to our manager for the Gray Transit route. I know a lot of our pricing, because it's provincially funded, that pilot, they kind of mandated our prices that we needed to charge for the routes, but that's definitely feedback that I can pass along. I think that's a great point.
Okay, thank you.
And Brooke, you have a question as well?
My question's about accordions. So back when you guys came and talked to us about the new website, I had mentioned that I wouldn't mind like checking it out with my voice with screen reader and stuff like that, which I did, but then Christmas hit and I kind of forgot to let you guys know what I noticed, but it might just be me, so it might be user knowledge problems, but I could not figure out, I assume there's the accordions that I got stuck on. I couldn't figure out how they worked, but maybe that's just me and lack of understanding.
Sure,
So do you know that accordions are good for screen reader users?
So Brad, you can jump in if you have your mic on here, but I know you should be able to navigate to the accordion, and as you land on it, just let me go back to the internet page I had open. Oh. Yeah, so we will look into that because you raise a good point. It's actually skipping over it right now on the page I'm on, Brad.
Whenever I clicked on it, it really didn't do anything for me, but maybe I wasn't seeing what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, no, it should by default, when you would highlight over it, I would think that it's supposed to open, and then the content would be available there, Brad. And yeah, I'm on the internet service providers page on the new site.
Gotcha.
And it's tabbing right past it on that one.
Because I use VoiceOver and I even tried clicking on it and it didn't do anything. So I'm not really sure if I wasn't doing it correctly or what.
Yeah, it looks like it's an issue on our end. Well, yeah, that's good that you noticed that. We'll dig into that.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, so we use a content platform called Drupal, which is an open government, or not government, I guess, but an open source platform used by a lot of government. And we do use modules that have compliance with accessibility. So that's just, I think, something going on in the back end on ours, but thank you for raising that. We will definitely get that improved and fixed before it goes live.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much, Rob, and Brad for bringing us up to date. And we'll look forward to having that opportunity again, hopefully, to take another look at the site.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good luck with your daughter. Okay, so we can move on then to jumping back to the agenda, to item number 3, which is reports. So the first item on the agenda is the accessibility election plan for Grey Highlands. And Debbie Yip will be presenting on that. But I would like to first move a motion. Sarah, are you okay to read the motion? Okay, thanks.
Through the chair, yes, absolutely. We've added a recommendation that the report from the Municipality of Grey Highlands dated September 2022 regarding the accessibility plan be presented for review and comment. And I believe that the clerk for Grey Highlands is on the call. Clerk Martel is also available to respond to any questions of the committee.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So can I have a mover for the motion? Dwight, and a seconder, please?
Sure.
Oh, Christina, thank you. Okay, and I will hand it over to Debbie and Raylene.
Thank you, Chair. I will not speak to this. Our clerk, Martel, will be speaking to this election plan. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, everybody. So I had submitted the plan for review, so I'm hoping that you all had an opportunity to take a look at it. The structure of our accessible plan is very much the same as what we had in the 2018 election. We found it was a workable plan. It met the requirements that we needed and also gave us the metrics in advance of what to look for when we're implementing the election and knowing how we can fill out our after election accessibility plan and what we can do moving forward. So we basically took the plan and we looked at 5 key areas, which is our elections, communication, and information. So basically we provide a lot of our information on our municipal website. We also we do some information within our local newspaper, as well as we provide the majority of the information that is pertinent to the voters in a voter information letter that's mailed out to all the residents. Then with key area 2 is our assistance centers. So we maintain the name assistance center, even though they are our advanced voting locations, because we also have the main office, which operates as an assistance center on days that we are not having an election. Grey Highlands has decided this year, based on our accessible election plan from the 2018 election, that we were going to bring back paper ballot voting in addition to the internet voting for our residents this year. We heard a lot in the last election that there are some people that aren't as tech savvy as others, and they were not comfortable with using the internet platform. So we're offering both methods this time. So we have you have the option to either come in and vote with a paper ballot or to vote online. And during the advanced voting centers or at the municipal office, there's assistance centers available for you, or you can call in as well. Voting methods, I touched on that just a second ago. Staffing. So prior to the open of voting on October 7th in Grey Highlands here, we are doing a refresher accessibility training to all the staff that'll be working at any of our advanced voting locations or our or the municipal office, providing assistance to our residents, and then assistance to candidates. And so we send out regularly to our candidates, kind of like info blogs about once every week or once every 2 weeks. And we provide them with information that any singular candidate may have asked, but also if one of those questions does relate to accessibility of documents or how they can find things or any of those kinds of things, we will include that in our information to the candidates. And as always with everything, we will provide access to information in alternative formats if we don't already have those available. So if you looked through the document, you would see that there is within each of those key areas of focus, there is our strategies, what the barrier type, whether it's information communication, technology, physical or architectural, and what our measurables will be, and how we will use that to provide our after election report to council.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Does anyone on the committee have any questions?
Yes, please.
Yes, Claudia.
Is there mail-in voting too? Voting by mail ballot?
No, Grey Highlands hasn't had vote by mail ballots since 2014, I believe.
Okay, I was wondering because that would make it easy for people with disabilities, you know.
That's where they're kind of, we kind of chose the internet voting as opposed to the vote by mail, because internet voting, you can do it anywhere, anytime from anywhere in
That's
Grey
right.
Highlands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? No? Well, thank you again, Raylene, for your report. That was excellent. I did read it, and it's impressive. And I think most municipalities are sort of following in the same format with their plans for the election. So, but I did honestly take the time to read it. So thank you. A lot of work went into it. Okay, so can I get a vote on the motion? Any further discussion? I guess no. Okay. So can I get a vote on the motion? Brooke, Christina, Dwight?
Yes.
Okay. Claudia?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, carried. Okay, on to the next item, which is again Grey Highlands. And this is with regards to the playground equipment replacement. And Debbie will be presenting this. Sarah, we do have a motion to present. So I'll have Sarah read the motion.
Through you,
Thanks,
Madam
Sarah.
Chair, thank you very much. The motion is as outlined in the report, that the report Municipality of Grey Highlands Playground Equipment Replacement for Eugenia Community Center and Beaversham Park be received, and that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee provide input for consideration for the installation of new play equipment.
Okay, can I have someone move the motion?
I can do it. It's Brooke.
Thanks, Brooke, and a seconder, please.
Yes, I second.
Thanks, Claudia. Okay, Debbie, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. And again, I'm a subject matter expert in this area. Online with me, I have Krista House, who is our Manager of Parks and Recreation, who created this report. So Krista, if you wouldn't mind speaking to it, that'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie, and through the chair to the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Basically, as outlined in the report, the Municipality of Grey Highlands will be installing a new significant piece of playground equipment in Eugenia Community Park, as well as a new swing set in the community of Faversham, a replacement of an existing set. The equipment in Eugenia was aging, was failing, was removed for safety reasons, and a new set has been ordered. Through our procurement process, we requested quotes, and once all the quotes were received and playground outlines were received and evaluated, we did choose a supplier moving forward. They will be providing installation. It'll be certified, third-party certified, but really we'd like to come to the committee today and ask for opinions, for any insight or comments into how we can ensure that these installations will be accessible. For example, in Feversham Park, the existing location of the swing set, community members, sorry, have already raised concerns about the location with respect to the tree line and how it's accessed. So we will certainly, in particular in that area, be looking at an alternative location, and would really appreciate the input from this committee and how we can go about making sure it's accessible for all.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Dwight?
Thank you very much for the report. It's an excellent looking piece of playground. The question I got for you is, what is the overall product around the swing sets and so on? I don't know what it is. I wonder what the product is.
The story?
The base all around the playground equipment and so on. What is the product? What is it?
Oh,
The
sorry?
substrate, is it
Oh,
sand?
currently it's it's an engineered mulch. And that is one of the options for what the substrate will be is moving forward.
What does that mean? Engineered mulch.
It's a product that we purchased that, and again, I'm far from an expert on the logistics of playground installation myself, but it's a product that is engineered to absorb shock. It's meant to be non-splintering, and it's my understanding that it's meant to be safe for use. If kids or people fall on it, that it won't hurt them.
Is it synthetic?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I do believe there's probably a synthetic element to it, but I'm not sure if it's 100% synthetic.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I want to follow up on that. Krista, you and I talked about that, and I've done some reading. The materials that you have suggested, Krista, meet with accessibility requirements. It is a hard pack, so you can move strollers on it, you can move mobile devices on it. So it's going to be like hard, but not hard like asphalt or concrete. It's going to be safe and accessible for persons that have mobile devices.
I love your honesty, but it says that staff are encouraged to have that virtual thing. Now I wasn't sure if it looks bad at one or not. Is that a virtual?
For you, Madam Chair, I do see that Kathy Nuno's hand is raised.
Yes, and I wasn't sure who was talking in the background there. Kathy? Sorry about that. Oh, you're muted, Kathy.
Me in the mute. Thank you, Chair, and through you to the committee. Just good timing on this one, because it just so happened that one of my ONAP colleagues did submit from the City of Toronto a reference document, and it's included in this package, a link to it called Creating Inclusive Playgrounds, a playbook of considerations and strategies. And somebody or a group of people have put a tremendous amount of work into this. And there's some really good things to consider in there. And they even have a playground evaluation tool in there, and they talk about pathway surfaces and playground surfaces and accessible turf and all kinds of good things. So that, I would just say all of the municipalities should probably have a look at that, because it's an excellent resource. And then following up to that, a little second article on Calgary, how they've got 10 new accessible playgrounds, and somehow they got provincial funding for it. So that's something else to watch out for.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thanks, Kathy, for that input. I read that document as well, and I was really impressed with it, as you said, and a lot of work went into it, a lot of research. And I also had the question around the ground surface, the ground cover surface as well. So thank you for that, Krista, for that information. Christina has a question.
Yeah, no, I just I like the playground. I like that the ramp seems to be like right at the edge. But my question is like, because we always look at the playground, but what's the surface around it? Like is there a path to get there? Is it like, we've done it before where, you know, like the ground is soft, or if it's wet, it kind of makes it inaccessible. And if, you know, it gets muddy or ruddy, like it's just how do you get from point A to point B? Like, how do you, is it navigatable? Like, what's the grade like to get there? All of those kind of things as well. So it's great that we have these playgrounds, but can we get there? And what's like the rest of the outside of it look like? Right, just things to think about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And this actually gives us a really great opportunity to ensure that it's one thing to have the playground itself accessible and the substrate, but if we can't get from the parking area to the playground, there's not much point. So this is actually a really great opportunity for us when these playgrounds are being installed and we're putting in our surface to look at and make sure that we can get from point A to point B, and whether that be a hard packed gravel or whatever it needs to be. It is certainly that opportunity, and it really, and this is a really great group for making us think about those things, and it's absolutely the time to do them when everything is being torn up and re-put down fresh.
Right. Well, so my daughter's wheelchair weighs probably about 250 pounds. So if you think about like this little tiny, it's not tiny, but this little ATV, like we've gone to parks, and I'll tell you, like the chair gets stuck on the way out there. You're trying to pick the best navigation path, all those kind of things where you're really just hoping that you can get there. Right. And at that navigation level, like, so she can drive on, are there like interactive games, like, you know, they have the spinny things where there's the XO games, or, you know, we get to parks and that's really great. She can drive on a ramp, but she gets to that middle section, turns around, and she's like, that's it. That's like, what is there to do at that level that's, you know, interactive for everybody?
Sure.
That's great. Does anyone have any other questions or input? No. Can I get a vote on the motion, please? All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Brooke?
Yes.
Okay, I believe that's carried. And the next item then is also Grey Highlands Burnside Park project. And I believe that is Debbie and Krista as well, or yeah?
Yes.
Or just Debbie, okay. And we will put forth another motion. So I'll have Sarah read the motion.
As outlined in the report submitted to the committee, the recommendation on the floor is that the report Municipality of Grey Highlands Burnside Park project be received, and that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee provide input for consideration of accessibility.
Okay, and can I get a mover for the motion, please? Dwight, and a seconder?
Seconded.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. Okay, I will hand it over to Debbie.
Okay, and thank you, Chair. I'll start, and Krista, if you jump in anytime, that'd be awesome. So Burnside Park is located downtown Markdale, and it's a I don't want to say derelict, but it's been an unmaintained piece of property, and there is a picture in here. It's photo 2. And it shows that there's some benches, there's some garbage containers, and there's a garden in the middle that has some brick around it. So the plan is to tear this whole thing up and build an accessible parkette, because it's downtown, it's not going to be a huge park. And the picture that's below, it's an illustration of what we're thinking. So there's going to be artificial turf, it's going to be concrete, an artificial turf on top of the concrete for the seating areas. The seating areas will accommodate accessibility devices. It will be a covered, 6 stations will be covered, so it'll be shade. It'll have some greenery. It's going to be artificial turf, and the main pathway down the middle will be concrete. And the parking is on both sides of the park. There's parking behind the parkette and parking in front of the parkette. So if you have anything to add, Krista?
Debbie, I think you're doing a great job. Absolutely. The existing parquet is kind of cluttered. It's not easy to navigate. There's kind of obstacles as you move through the middle. So part of the intention of this project was to really open it up and to make it truly accessible. Some of the paving stones are uneven and there's tripping hazards, there's issues there. As Debbie mentioned, there'll be ample parking. It'll be really meant to be a 3-season space, a place for markets, gathering spaces that are accessible for all. So I think Debbie gave a great overview. And again, the parking piece is important. There's also plans for some sort of accessible washroom facility, whether that be a portable toilet or something more permanent. It's still kind of being determined, but there will be accessible options as well on site.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee members?
Yes, please. On the picture here, there's only a porta potty. Are there even accessible porta potties around? Is this a thing? Do they exist?
Go ahead, Krista.
I can jump in there. Thank you through the chair to the committee. Yes, they do exist. We do have them currently in several of our parks and outdoor spaces throughout Grey Highlands. We contract them through an external company.
Okay, thank you. I've never seen one.
And I think one of the things that I probably would comment on would be lighting. Sufficient lighting in that area as well. Because it doesn't look like currently there would be.
Through the chair, there will be lighting. In the picture that was submitted, like I said, was an illustration. The lighting isn't going to be exactly like that, but certainly there's going to be lighting.
Okay, that's great. Christina, did you have a question? Or your hands up from the previous question, but go ahead if you have a question.
Yeah, so no, I'm just looking at a few things like, so you have the tables. What is the width of a table that's pulling up? So I know my daughter's wheelchair is 26 inches wide. So you want to make sure that you have enough that chair can actually pull up. I do love artificial turf. The only thing I would recommend is that you make sure that it's like super durable, because I know like if you get certain where so my daughter used to park in the same spot in her bedroom all the time. And as she would turn, the carpet actually got a turn mark in it. And not that I think that the same person's going to park there all the time. You just want to make sure that it's more super durable than anything. The park is beautiful. Just making sure that there's accessible sides to each table or wherever they end up sitting. And honestly, at the best bet, I guess like the biggest thing is, when all in doubt, if you have like a table or the dimensions of a table, or you can like get your hands on a wheelchair, even just trying to get yourself under a table, or, I know every municipality does like accessibility training. So, get yourself in a wheelchair, maybe like roll around somewhere and maybe see what it's like or what you think challenges could be. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty. Yeah, lighting would be like visual impairment. I do find like as everybody ages, and that would just be like a gathering senior thing as well. Making sure it's well lit, well marked, making sure nobody's tripping over anything. Your biggest thing will honestly be people not pushing their chair back in. Right, so that's having maybe maintenance stop by and making sure things are in their location like once or twice a day as well. But I think that's it.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Christina. Does anyone else have any questions? Or anything to add to? Okay. Well, thank you, Debbie and Krista. We really appreciate your report. And obviously glad to have input into it. Can I get a vote on the motion, please? Dwight? Christina? Brooke?
Yes.
Claudia?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, carried. Okay, we can now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Township of Southgate. This is with regards to the council chambers renovation. and Holly will be reporting on that. I'll first have Sarah read the motion.
Through you, Madam Chair. The motion today, as listed on the agenda, is that the report from the Township of Southgate dated August 31st, 2022, regarding the council chambers renovation be presented for review and comment.
Great. And can I have a mover for the motion? Christina, and a seconder, please.
Yes, second.
Thanks, Claudia. Okay, and I'll hand it over to Holly. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you. Through the chair to the committee, we just wanted to provide some updated pictures of our council chambers renovation that's currently ongoing. We are not 100% complete yet, but we are getting close. And so, yeah, we just submitted the pictures. Everything is brand new. So it's up to code with the AODA code. And so I guess I'll just take questions or comments if there are any.
Sure. Maybe I can go first. I did have a couple questions on, although following the AODA, it's just an extra precautionary item. So the piping underneath the sink, you know, from what I can see here, it does not appear to have an insulated pipe wrapping on it. That would be something that I would suggest, especially for someone with spinal cord injury or paralysis of any kind. If someone prior to them has ran hot water, and, you know, just for example, it's in the summertime, they're in shorts, they wheel up to the sink, that pipe could still be very hot. So my suggestion would be to wrap that with an insulated wrapping so it's not exposed. The other item I had from the view of the photo is the paper towel dispenser. First of all, to my eye, it would look like it's too high. And secondly, there's a barrier to it. So the receptacle for the garbage is blocking, really. It's become a barrier to accessing the paper towel. But I also think from the view of this that the paper towel is probably too high. Yeah. And is there an opportunity maybe to get an automated, maybe not the dispenser for paper towel, but a hand dryer, and the other item I think was the lever taps. Is there an option there to have that, possibly? I know money and a budget is also taken into consideration, but automated taps is a good idea as well. Those were just my comments, only, just from my background of doing audits of buildings. Those were, the three things that really kind of stood out for me in the photo. So.
Yeah, thank you. I will certainly pass those along.
Thanks.
And see if we can have some of those things rectified. Yeah,
it looks like we have a few people who have questions for sure. So I'll start with Kathy, because I think you've had your hand up for a while. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the committee. I just wanted to add a thanks for this follow-up because the committee did have the opportunity in June of 2019 to have a site visit at the office, and so it's nice to see the progress.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kathy. I remember that visit. Christina.
Yeah, I have all the same concerns. This is where, the tap handles, really not accessible for someone who doesn't have the strength to reach up. The pipe seems to be in the way. The hand towel device is, yes, it's blocked by a garbage can as well as too high. Also, maybe people can't pull the paper towels out. all that kind of stuff. But and even welcome to 2020 too, we're trying to remove like all the flaps on all the garbage cans because everybody, not everybody can push the flap in. Some of them are too high. And well, we know with COVID, we're trying to lessen what we're all touching. So even just the flap on the garbage can there it can be a barrier for some people as well. I know Natalie's definitely not strong enough or arms long enough to even turn the taps on in that room. And I will tell you that poor child just got called for jury duty. And so like anything, like, you know, even if she got into a room like that, there's nothing that she can, so it just becomes a bit more of a problem. So it's just working on those buildings so that they're accessible, right?
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. And I think Dwight, you had your hand up earlier and I'm sorry about that.
No problem at all, Madam Chair. I agree with all your comments. I think they're great comments. I've installed a lot of this equipment myself, and that's what caught my eye. The other thing is the mirror itself. There's no handicap mirrors. Most of these pictures I've seen anywhere, and I can't tell by the picture, but it looks like just a thick piece of glass. And those are things that should be, to be compliant, you need to have a handicapable mirror in place somewhere in your council chambers. It really looks nice because I've been in your chamber before. 100% improvement. I assume that you have all the other good stuff going in there, like hearing impaired, sight, and all that stuff be all in there too. But it's a 100% improvement. Great job.
Great. And Brooke, you have a question, and then Claudia.
Since we're talking about possibly adding in automated taps and stuff, then maybe automating like the soap dispenser, because I always think it's funny when everything's automated except for the soap dispenser, so we're all still touching the soap dispenser to get the soap. So even that, or even there are the automated paper towel dispensers that kind of make it go down every time somebody's nearby. So that may be helpful for somebody who might not be able to like reach it or pull it down. It might be helpful because I know that like there's a lot of studies that are done on the hand dryers, and they're kind of scary how germy they are.
But you bring up good points there, Brooke. Thank you very much for your input. And Claudia, you had a question as well?
I have two comments here. I do agree with the garbage receptacle lid and the paper towel dispenser. It should be automatic. It's too high up. It's too far away. The soap dispenser, I would think, is also too far away. If somebody sits in a wheelchair, how are they going to get to the soap? And then the last thing, where's the toilet paper? Is that not a thing anymore? There's no toilet paper, nothing. No space for it.
Yeah. Just having another quick look at that. Yeah, you're right.
It's a garbage can for like menstrual pads, but there's no toilet paper at all. I think the whole thing is pretty poorly designed in regards to disability.
So through the chair, there is a holder for toilet paper. We are not fully functioning yet, so there's not toilet paper in there yet, but we will definitely have that.
We should, yeah.
Yeah, you can see that there is it's just that the toilet paper roll is not on it. Yeah.
And also, before I forget, it's true that the hand dryers are just like if you flush a toilet without a lid, the droplets fly all over the room, and then you turn on the hand dryer and you exacerbate that problem. All the germs are going to fly around all over the place. You're basically covered in germs if you use a hand dryer. I think it's a very bad idea. And I was wondering if everything is made electronic, like the toilet flusher, the soap dispenser, the garbage lid, the taps, the paper towels, and so on. If there isn't enough money, if there maybe could be a fundraiser done for that to do it, just to be able to do it right the first time.
So these are a lot of items that Holly will probably add to her report and take back. But one of the, and I do want to, as Dwight had said, compliment the work that has been done, having been there and seen the council chambers and what a huge, remarkable difference this has made. And also the idea of the TVs, you know, situated, you know, I think the report said there were 4 of them. You know, so dependent on where you're sitting in the room, you know, you will have access to what's going on in the meeting. So I truly like that idea as well. So if there's no other comments or questions for Holly, then if I can ask for a vote on the motion. All in favor? Dwight? Claudia?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Okay, and Christina, you had your hand up, I think? Yeah, thank you, carried. Okay, thank you, Holly.
Thank you again.
So the next item is the Hanover Heritage Square accessibility. Melissa Hildendorf. Hope I got that right, Melissa. I think I did. It is a verbal update from Melissa.
All right, can everyone hear me okay? Thank you. So during our last committee meeting on July 13th, myself and a colleague had brought forward a design for a cover over the stage in our Heritage Square. And at that time, although the stage cover itself was okay, there were accessibility concerns with the site as in general. So the committee approved the design of the stage cover, but with the caveat that there's a commitment to improving accessibility of the site moving forward. So in response, myself and our Director of Parks and Recreation brought a report forward to our council on August 8th. I'm happy to report that council was really receptive to the feedback from this committee. And they did direct staff to investigate the financial implications and the feasibility associated with making accessibility improvements at the site. So right now, we were hoping to have a quote. It was supposed to be to us yesterday afternoon, but as of noon today, we were still waiting. So, but it is forthcoming. And this quote is working with the project, I guess, manager and contractor is what I'm looking for. And this would see a concrete pathway be installed from the existing boardwalk all the way to the stage itself, and then some regrading done to improve any areas where there's, you know, dips and valleys, and then also regrading so that at the back of the stage, that concrete pathway would butt up flush with the top of the stage. So there would be no need for a ramp onto the stage at all. It would just be a straight path. In addition, we were speaking with our building professionals, and although it's not required, we have asked for the quote to include railings around the stage perimeter, because we did have concerns that, you know, people could easily fall off that. Whether you're in a mobility device or have a disability or not. We will be bringing that information back to council next week on Monday. And I just wanted to say thank you to the committee for their advocacy and accessibility. And I hope that this is one of those demonstrations where, you know, your feedback really is making improvements in the communities. And I'm looking forward to what our council has to say, because they really did seem very open to these improvements and receptive to your feedback.
That's great, Melissa. That is really good to hear. Does anyone have any comments? Christina?
And I'm glad to see that happening. That makes me happier because it also, I was talking to somebody else, like not obviously on this committee, but they were like, what about the musicians that have to lug that stuff down there? Like they themselves want a ramp too. And I was like, see, like it doesn't come down to the end of the day about just accessibility, but it comes down about accessibility literally for all, right? Like the musicians are going to be happier. They're not lifting stuff up and it's going to be better on their backs and etc. And the whole part all the way across is better because then it makes the stage so much more fit to the actual part that can go over top without having to try and figure out how a ramp would go around. But yeah, we got lots to do, but it's a step in the right direction.
Does anyone else have any comments for Melissa? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Melissa. We greatly appreciate your update. And also for the committee previously having the input, it obviously is very valuable. Okay, so we'll move on now to section 4 of the agenda under reports. So the next report is a progress report on trails improvement. Again, it is a verbal update, and I will hand it over to Natalie Michalko.
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks,
Thank
Natalie.
you. Thank you, Chair, and through the committee. It's my pleasure to speak with you today and talk a little bit about the trail improvements that the Planning Department has been taking on through the grant, the Healthy Communities Grant that was received in 2021. So I'm going to share my screen here. Alrighty, can everybody see my PowerPoint there?
Yes.
Thank you.
So just as a background or maybe a little bit of a refresher for some of you, the county owns 45 forest properties, which comprise approximately 8,000 acres of forest. And this is in addition to the 77 kilometers of CP Rail Trail that runs from Owen Sound to Dundalk. And all of these trails, they're multi-use and they're enjoyed by both visitors and residents. We work with various public landowners such as the 9-member municipalities, the Bruce Trail Conservation Authorities, and Crowdland to manage these outdoor spaces. And we have a couple master plans that guide these outdoor spaces. We have the Recreational Trails Master Plan for off-road and wilderness trails, the Cycling and Trails Master Plan for on-road and trail connections, and then the Forest Management Plan. And all of these documents can be accessed on the Grey County website. And on the slide here, I just have an image of Grey County, and we have the little green sections that outline where the county forests are located. So last year in 2021, the county received funding through the Healthy Communities Initiative Grant Program. And the objective of this was to transform public spaces in response to COVID-19. And so we received grant funding through this, and we decided to focus efforts on forest trail and CP rail trail improvements, as well as a project called the Comprehensive Trail Mapping. And I will be discussing these in the next couple of slides. So we chose 8 forest properties for these improvements, and they include Pretty River, Kolapore, Derby, Camp Oliver, Glenelg, Klondike, Lily Oak, St. Vincent, and Massey. And various improvements consisted of trail marking to help assist with wayfinding, clearing brush from the trails, and clearing the parking lots of vegetation, and also identifying potential locations for trail signage and additional rest stops, so benches and other amenities. The images on the slide, I have one on the left here. It's a single track trail. It's a wilderness trail that goes through 2 trees, and we have the marking system on the tree as well. And they're just colored blazes, and they are just little rectangles that indicate the direction of the trail. And in this case, it's going straight. And then the other photo I have here is the Camp Oliver Managed Forest sign, and it indicates all of the permitted uses on the property. It has the phone number to the county, and then also a QR code that takes you to the website as well to find more information on the trails. Some other initiatives that we worked on through this project was updating trail networks on an online public trail database called TrailForks, and the forest signage, as you can see in the image as well. So I've got a picture on the slide here. It's of a bench, and it's adjacent to the CP Rail Trail looking out onto a lake. And this lake in the picture, it's Wilcox Lake. And so we chose several locations along the rail trail for benches and signage. We looked into different options for signage and where the signage could be placed and what information we might need on the signs. We came to realize that signage is a really big task, and I think it was much bigger than we initially anticipated. So we weren't able to continue on with the signage through the grant, but we hope to continue on with this project in the future and continue looking into options for improved signage. So the next portion of this project was rail trail digitization. So the picture on the slide here is a panoramic picture that was captured with a GoPro camera that was mounted on someone's helmet as they were biking or ATVing in the ATV sections of the trail. And it captures the trail in front of you, it captures the trail behind, and then it also shows the scenery and the vegetation on the outside of the trail. So this is a really great tool for trip planning and kind of knowing what to expect on the trail, where the amenities are, where the rest stops are, and also gates and kind of what to expect when you come up to those. This imagery, it's not currently publicly available, but we're hoping to eventually create a public facing map where users can go in and access all of this imagery and take a look at what the CP Rail Trail looks like before actually going out on it. And then another part of the rail trail project is the ongoing resurfacing. So the last 35 kilometers of the CP Rail Trail between Berkeley and Dundalk will be completed this summer. And this will result in a smoother trail, very similar to the portion north of Berkeley. And it's being resurfaced with stone dust. So the Comprehensive Trail Mapping Project, this was a project created with the goal of having one location where all trail information for Grey County can be accessed, regardless of whether the trails are municipally owned or owned by the Conservation Authority or MNR. We chose TrailForks to host this data because it has very trail specific information. You can describe trail conditions, you can submit trail reports, and it even has details such as the trail surface, so whether it's paved or gravel, the trail slope, the elevation, and the length, and also where amenities are located as well. This site, it functions as both a crowdsourced and moderated site, so members of the public can upload trail data, and then regional moderators, as they're called, they review that data to ensure that it is accurate. And TrailForks is also an app that can be used when you're out on the trails. It has GPS tracking and includes many of the other features that the web version has as well. I think it's a good platform to kind of know what you're going to expect while you're on the trail, and it kind of provides a little bit of an ease of mind when you're visiting a new place. So the last image I have on the slide here, it's of the Lily Oak property. The pictures of one of the intersections, they're very large intersections, and previously they were overgrown with grass, shrubs, and goldenrod. So we used hedge trimmers and whippersnippers, and we cut back all of the vegetation so that the area was open and could be used for picnic or frisbee. And there's also a bench in the photo that was very difficult to access prior to the cutting. So now it's a little bit of a nicer rest stop. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has, but also hear any feedback or suggestions that you would have for the county trails.
Okay, thanks, Natalie. And I think Claudia has a question.
Yes, there was this question about mapping other sports. It said on that one image. There is a way to build like an outdoor exercise trail where there's push up places and pull up bars and stuff like that. And I was wondering if that would be an idea, like ropes hanging from trees for people to climb up or whatever stuff. Like the sports activities are certainly not accessible for everybody because you can't make every sport accessible for every disability. But I thought if you're looking for something else to attract people, that might be an option. And the second comment was, isn't Camp Oliver that forest? Isn't that the forest where the ATVers always rip down the gate and harass people and drive through the creek? And hasn't there been problems for years now with ATVers just really violating the park and threatening people and stuff like that? And is that still the case?
Through the chair to the committee, thank you for that question, Claudia. To answer the first part, I've actually seen outdoor equipment before. I believe it's in Wyerton and Blue Water Park. They have some of that, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's really cool. And I think something like that would be really great to have at one of the properties if we have kind of an area that's big enough to accommodate that. So I'll definitely pass that along. I think it's a really cool idea for sure. And to answer your second question, unfortunately, many of the forest properties, we do have issues with unauthorized motorized vehicle use. And that's currently a problem that we're working through with many other forest properties in addition to Bruce Trail and other locations. So things like improved signage and working with the local authorities has been some methods that we've been using to try and address those issues.
May I respond to that? Okay, with this outdoor sports equipment, you don't have to have one singular area where you put all the different devices. The way I've seen is it goes along a trail. You have like a piece of equipment here in a little area, and then you keep going on the trail, and then you have another piece of equipment over there on the trail, and so on. So it doesn't have to be all in one spot. It can be all around the trail.
Through the chair, that's awesome. That's cool. I hadn't seen anything like that before. So yeah, I think that's great input, and we'll definitely have to look into that for sure.
Okay, and I think Christina has some comments or questions.
I do, because I'm like, how long have I been on this committee? At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I get the whole like, I love improvements. I love all that because I can do, you know, that kind of stuff with my able-bodied child. But my question again is like, if you have a different ability of sorts, how do you know where to go without driving to a place and getting there and realizing that that trail is not for you? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so through the chair, I think that's a really good point, and I think that's something that we've been trying to address in the mapping project, and also through the CP rail trail digitization, just so you have pictures or at least a description of kind of what to expect and what amenities are there, and what the surface is like, and things like that. Just even for, you know, anyone who's planning a trip and things like that. I think it's a good tool, but definitely can look at additional improvements there as well.
Yeah, like I've seen lots of different town maps because, you know, I try, you know, I kind of like, I pay attention to that stuff. Obviously that's a thing for me because, you know, we've always tried to find accessible places or whatever. But like anything that's like accessible, where there's an accessible bathroom. I know that Port Elgin, kudos to them, have actually put on their town map places where you can find an AED. Other things that, what would you think of if you were somewhere within that municipality that would somebody would look for along the way? Like my biggest thing, it sounds ridiculous. Every time we would plan somewhere, I knew Michael's had a big enough accessible bathroom, and every Michael's was to full standard for all of that, and the bathroom would be big enough. So we would plan trips based on where the Michael's bathrooms were. So, you can all laugh. But like, I mean, not just because I love Michael's, but because I knew that they would have the store bathroom that would be big enough that would fit me, her, a bathroom and a wheelchair and everything else. Because even mall bathrooms, usually those stalls don't fit a wheelchair, a person in a wheelchair, you know, a person, because everybody assumes when it's accessible or wheelchair accessible that the person in the wheelchair can generally transfer themselves, which isn't always the case, right? So what do we have for accessible bathrooms? What do we have for accessible trails? And it doesn't just have to be accessible, like what is slope, the grade, the what's on, like, you know, all those kind of things where, like, even if you had like, you know, whether it was a vision cane or a wheelchair or, you know, because they're obviously not getting to some of those places. Some people can, not all people can go to those places by themselves. Like my daughter would have to have somebody drop her off, etc. But again, years ago, I went to, we used to explore the Bruce, and I walked up to the guy and he's like, okay, where do you want to go? And I was like, okay, tell me what's accessible. And he was like, I don't know. So if we want the people that live here to explore their own community, what can we do to put that out there that's, you know, going to get them out in their own community and not want to leave to somewhere? Because I'm pretty sure my kid never wants to come back from Toronto, because even my own street in my own town doesn't have a sidewalk. That's a whole other issue, but accessibility and making sure that people know how to get there and it's accessible to get there, and what are the amenities they're going to need along the way.
Yeah, good point, Christina. And Kathy, yes.
Thanks. So I think there's a really good opportunity here for us to connect projects. And I know coming up shortly in the agenda is going to be the updated multi-year accessibility plan. And one of the things that we've been working on, or it's been on the radar for a lot of years, is that municipal accessible features map. And now I'm wondering if maybe that project, which is getting so close, can be integrated with other maps like the trail maps. I'll have to check with our IT to see if we can overlay these maps, but that would probably be helpful to find out how far away from the accessible features things are.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah. Yeah, be interesting to see. Okay, any other questions or concerns or issues? No? Okay, Natalie, thank you very much for presenting. We really appreciate it. Okay, the next item on the agenda then is our the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee Multi-Year Accessibility Plan for 2023 to 2027. And Kathy will be presenting on that. But I'll first get a motion. Sarah, did you want to read the motion?
Sure, through you, Madam Chair. As outlined in the report, the motion as presented is that report CCR JAAC-10-22 be received, and that the multi-year accessibility plan 2023 to 2027 be adopted as presented.
Okay, and can I get a mover, please?
I can do it. It's Brooke.
Okay, thanks, Brooke. And a seconder?
Yes.
Okay, Claudia, thank you very much. And I'll hand it over to Kathy.
Thank you, Chair Schultz, and through you to the committee. Through the legislation, we're required to completely review and update our multi-year accessibility plan at least once every 5 years. And so this year is the year for the full review. Last year when I did the accessibility plan progress report, really came to light about how many changes that were made from COVID, adapting to COVID, and those changes, how they had the benefit of improved accessibility. So I really stepped back from there and I met with every department and talked to everybody about where we were, where we are, and where we're going. And so for this rendition of the plan, because it's been a few renditions already, I didn't think it was necessary to reiterate all the stuff about the history because it's still available if anybody wants to see it. But I think the history piece is pretty solid, and I really wanted to focus on where we're at and what our goals are for the next term. And so we do have just a kind of a summary of the goals for the next council term. We want to review the terms of reference for this committee to see if we want to make any changes to that or if there's any opportunity for us to broaden our scope. We want to broaden connection with stakeholders for accessibility and improve communication with those stakeholders. We want to increase accessibility awareness, both corporately and in the communities. We want to improve staff training. And with that, we're on the verge of implementing a new program called HR Downloads, which we're hopeful that that's going to really help with the legislated requirement to keep track of the training. We're planning on updating job descriptions so that they all include an accessibility component, and this will dovetail with the goal of increasing accessibility awareness and making accessibility just part of the corporate culture. We are still working to make our conventional transit system compliant with the legislation, which has been a financial challenge as it was, it still is a pilot project and doesn't have a longevity commitment from the province for funding. So we're doing the best we can with that and moving forward and continuing to make improvements. And we're continuing to identify and remove barriers. The other thing that's in the plan that wasn't in the last revision was an expanded piece for the legislated requirements, because it's not just the AODA and the IASR, there's also components in the Building Code and the Planning Act and the Elections Act. So I wanted to make sure that was in there too, so we wouldn't lose sight of it, because there's a lot of legislation, there's a lot of requirements, and it's really hard to make sure you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. So that was my thought process behind how this updated plan is structured, and I'm open to hear any suggestions or thoughts.
Here we go.
Okay, Claudia.
Yeah, I have a question that might sound ridiculous, but maybe you will understand. In regards to broaden the scope, do we have any ability at all to make housing and food more accessible to people with disability? Because a living of $1,169 a month, and now we potentially get a 0.5% raise, which means that we're actually losing 7% of income because of inflation. Is there any way that we could pressure the government, the local government, the federal government, to raise the wages to at least be at the poverty line and not half of the poverty line? Like now in the summer, I'm eating better, but in the winter, I have access to 1 or 2 meals a day. That's all I can afford.
Okay, thank you, Claudia, and through you, Chair. I'm not sure about that, Claudia, but that is a really good question. And let me look into that and see what I can find out. And I don't know if it's going to fall in our scope or not, but maybe we can connect with other parties that can help with that. So leave that with me and let me have a look at that.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions for Kathy?
I have a second one if that's okay.
Oh, sure, Claudia, yes.
I know that volunteer drivers are available for when people can't drive themselves because of illness or disability. And how do we make that knowledge more accessible? Or for people who are on a disability and cannot afford the ride or something like that to a doctor or whatever, how do we put that information out that everybody on disability knows how to get volunteer services available to them?
Through you, Chair. That's another great question. And I think I can probably ask both of those questions at the same time when I'm doing my investigating on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, anyone else? I just want to say thank you, Kathy. That's for putting the report together. It's a lot of work. And obviously going around to all the different departments at the county and getting input is not always an easy task, you know, and pinning people down to spending the time to go over it. But just as chair of the committee, I want to thank you for that, for all your hard work on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So if we don't have any other questions or comments for Kathy, then can I get a vote on the motion? All in favor? Okay, Claudia?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda is other business. Did anyone have other business items? There wasn't any on the agenda. No? Okay. And I guess the next meeting date is to be determined. So we will be notified of that. I assume we might be able to get another one in before the election.
It's hard to say.
Hard to know, right? Hard to know what would be on the agenda. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think, sorry, Chair. I think
Yes.
one of the things that might prompt a meeting is if any of the local municipalities have a site plan they need to be reviewed. We do try to work within the scope to try to not be the bottleneck.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I guess we are finished our meeting, and it was great to see everyone. And so I will call the meeting adjourned at 2:58. Okay.
Thanks, everyone. It was good to see you guys again.
Yes.
Now that I have a doctor, finally, I might be able to attend more meetings because my health scare is under control again.
Lovely.
Oh, that's
Hi,
good to hear.
everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
Christina.
Everyone.
Care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.